let's talk about lease options. The lease options analysis. You guys saw me pull this out yesterday. We talked about it. Let's go through it again here today and invent some numbers and play around with a potential, deal structure here of a lease option assignment. This is a wholesale lease option. Let's talk about it and figure one through all the way from start through the paperwork. Let's go through the paperwork again today, and it won't take us that long. And since we have a little more experience with it from yesterday, and this will help maybe make it click a little bit for us too, if you're new. Okay, so let's get started. Anybody here have a particular property deal in mind, or some numbers that they would like to share that we can start filling in the property information? Okay, so after you've talked to the homeowner, and if you follow my instruction, after you've talked to the homeowner lead, then you'll know a motivation level. If they are relatively motivated, then you're going to probably set up a second phone call wherein you can make an offer. Okay, Mr. Homeowner, I need to get off the phone and do a little research here. I'm really interested in everything you've said. Recap the story to him a little bit, and then say, hey, if I call you at 2:00 today, would that be okay? I'd like to make an offer. Okay, they like 98% of the time answer the phone at that time. Okay, so that really works, and it gives you some time to research. Well, while you're doing that, you're going to want to get some property information. So let's talk about property information and start building a lease option deal, and so we can make an offer and start filling out paperwork. Okay, so that's the objective for today. Anybody have any numbers they can share? Or you want me to just go with a deal that I've done recently, or make up some numbers?
Over the deal that you've done recently.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. I'm happy to do that. Does anybody have any other ideas, like a deal that they're working on that they really wish? Okay. All righty then. All right. So we have a bread and butter house here, a 3-bedroom. Well, it's not quite bread and butter, a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath with a 1-car garage. And the fair market value of this property today, as it sits, is $145,000. Okay. I go to Zillow. I find that the annual rate of appreciation on this particular property is 3.5% per year. Okay. This house needs no repairs, and the fair market rent for this particular property is $1,150 per month. Is everybody on board with me so far?
Yes.
Do you know how you would find this information? Real quickly, fair market value, where would we find it?
Are we on Zillow?
Yep, you can find it right there on Zillow a lot. PropStream. You could take the I don't know if this is the right word, Rick. Is Rick Gentry in here? I don't know if this is the right word, but I'm going to use it. You can take the amalgamation of Zillow and Trulia and Redfin and Realtor.com and kind of get an average of what they all say. Get a good idea of what something's worth that way. They can't.
Can you spell that for me so I could Google that? Just kidding.
I have no idea what it means, but it popped out of my brain, so strange. Rate of annual appreciation, where do we find that? Typically, same places. Zillow has it normally. I'll say. PropStream.
I still can't find it. I still cannot find it.
I mean, I see the change on the 30 days, but the annual one, I don't find it anymore. But
Okay. All right. We'll have to get in there and show you where it's at then, man. I will do that.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right, bro. Repairs, 0. I would ask the homeowner, right? Is this where I would get the repairs kind of estimated in my mind? How would I do that? Just by asking the homeowner?
Asking qualified questions.
Yeah, asking about it, and then asking, looking at pictures.
Yeah.
Hey, are these pictures current? Well, that's a good question. Oh no, those pictures, I took those before the last tenant moved in. Shit. Then you have no idea what that house looks like. You
Yeah.
right? Okay. Fair market rent. Where would I find that again, real quick?
Zillow.
Okay, Zillow's got it a lot, but other
Rental
places-
meter.
Yeah,
Rentometer.
rentometer. Yeah, the rentometer. Yeah.
PropStream probably has,
has-
something.
PropStream does have a rental estimate. That's correct. Okay, so we know property information, the basics now, enough to evaluate a lease option deal. Let's go over here to the seller's side, and this is based on the conversation we had with the seller. When we called the seller, he's obviously got an asking price that he's wanting for that property, right? So in this particular case, the homeowner was looking for this. Not bad. Not really very far off from fair market value, but a little more. So, it happens. Okay. Down payment, $5,000. Option term, I don't know what that was, but I like it. All right. Arrears. There were no arrears. Everybody knows what arrears are. What are arrears again? Somebody tell me.
Late payment.
Yep. Late payments. Late homeowner payments. Okay. Arrears could also mean they're behind on a homeowners association. Okay. Maybe it's not arrears in the mortgage itself, but maybe they haven't paid the homeowners association in the last 3 years. I don't know. Weird shit happens sometimes.
Can property liens be arrears?
Yeah, they could have liens on the property. Yeah, there could be. Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how would you just, this is off topic slightly, but how would you find out if you were going to sandwich this one, or if you were going to be the tenant buyer? How would you find out if this guy's got any more liens on his property or anything that he's not telling us about that would screw up my deal and he'd just steal my money? How would I find that out? What is the process for figuring that out? Somebody tell me. This is
Do a title search.
Yeah, a title search. How do you get a title search done? Somebody tell me.
Open escrow at the title company.
Yeah, you call a title company and you say, hey, I'd like to run a title search on this particular property address. How much is that going to cost me? And how long do you think that'll take? That's about it. They'll tell you what to do next. How much does it cost to run title searches normally in your market? Do you know?
I think here is it $350, something like that.
Oh, hell no. No.
$5.
Just a basic title search is like $30.
Oh, title search. Okay. I'm thinking about something else.
Title insurance is going to be $350, $400. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But I don't need the insurance. I just want to get the search done. Right? I don't need the insurance yet on a lease option because I'm not closing the deal yet. So I don't need title insurance just yet. But I would like to know about this. So if I'm a tenant buyer, this is something I might want to do, but none of them are smart enough to know to do that. Okay. Just FYI. All right. Monthly rent. Seller would like $1,200 a month. This deal, in a way, at face value, doesn't look that sweet. does it. But let's play it out a little bit and see what happens. Okay, we're 2/3 of the way done with our research here. Well, actually, we're all the way done with our research, but now we've got to do some mathematics to figure out the tenant buyer side and our profits. Okay, when we go to sell the deal, if we contract with the seller at $149,000 and give him $5,000 down and a 24-month term of lease at $1,200 a month, and this is the property information, how do we create a lease option out of this? It's simple as following these formulas. Okay. So the tenant buyer price, this is the price you'll mark it up to for your tenant buyer. How do we calculate that? There is a law in algebra. I know I'm not a math guy. Trust me, I'm not. But I do need to know a little bit of math. Appreciation. So the law in algebra is that you always, when you see a formula like this, you always do the calculation inside the parentheses first. Okay. So let's do that first. Appreciation times the term. Okay. What's the rate of appreciation? 3.5% times the term. It's annually. So 24 months is 2 years. So what's 2 times 3.5? Okay. 7.
Yeah.
All right. Now what's fair market value? 145,000 plus 7%. Somebody do the math for me and help me out. What's 145,000? That's fair market value plus 7%. What's that equal?
155.
Like 150.
150.
What is it again? I'm gonna double check y'all. Hold on.
150.
I gotta double check y'all. 155, 150. That's right. Okay, so $155,150. Okay. That is the tenant buyer price. That's what we can market this for reasonably based on appreciation, future appreciation. 155,000. Whew. Wow.
Justin,
Is
I
that
have a
right?
question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question. Can you instead of the
Hello there,
155?
young lady.
Oh, sorry, let me mute. Go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah. Instead of the 155, because I know that you're marking it up for the multi-year, can you still do it at 145 though for the tenant buyer? If you want to, or no, you always want to go up.
Yeah, the asking price I'm going to have to give the homeowner is 149. So fair
So
market.
sorry, that's what I meant to say. Can you do for the tenant buyer 149
Well,
also? No, you have to.
we couldn't really, because then there wouldn't be any spread for profits. See, if I have to give the seller 149 and then I only charge 149 to my end buyer here, there's no money to be made.
This is a
So-
sandwich we're doing, or
No,
this is another?
this is an assignment. Yeah. in an assignment. Yeah. So I'll always have to ask more of my tenant buyer than I'm giving to the seller. Okay. And that can't be way out of bounds with fair market value. And it's all calculated using this rate of appreciation in the term. So this is how I know what that house is going to be worth in 24 months. In 24 months, at this rate of appreciation, 3.5%, this house will be worth 155. So why would I sell it to the tenant buyer at 149 and not make any money when that house is actually going to be worth 155 by the time he goes to exercise his option to buy it?
But you're going to be making money on a down payment though.
Yeah, correct. I will be making money in a down payment, and that's where I'm going to collect the down payment from, is the spread between 149 and 155, 150. So let's do that right now, and maybe that'll kind of help clear it up a little bit. Let's do the tenant buyer option fee. What's the option fee, the down payment, so to speak, from the tenant buyer How do we calculate that? The tenant buyer price, 155, 150. So get your calculator out. The tenant buyer price of 155, 150. That's our new price for the tenant buyer. We're going to subtract the seller's price of 149,000. Okay. That equals 6,150. Then we're going to add the down payment of $5,000 that we owe the seller in the middle column. So I'm going to add $5,000, and that equals $11,150. That is the potential down payment that we can ask for from a tenant buyer. Now, I don't get to keep all of this, though, do I?
Nope. You gotta get the seller to.
Because I got to give 5,000 of this 11,150 to the seller. So I really only get to keep $6,150 of this money. But this is the down payment I'm going to be asking for from my tenant buyer. So if I sell the house at 155, 150 to the tenant buyer, and he puts down $11,150, that brings it all the way down to $144,000, which is the asking price minus his down payment that he got. And that's what's still owed by the tenant buyer. I hope that makes sense.
Hey, Justin,
Yes.
I wanted to ask a question. I missed it. How did you come up with the 7% as far as the market value? How did you factor that in?
Okay. We go to Zillow or PropStream and we find out what the annual rate of appreciation is. In this particular case, it was 3.5%. We have an agreement with the seller. He said on the phone that he would consider doing this for 24 months. So in 24 months, if the house is increasing in value at 3.5%, 3.5% per year times 2 years is 7%.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So 7% right here in this equation, the tenant buyer price, 7%. So fair market value, that's what it's worth today, plus 7% will equal what it's worth in 2 years. Does that make sense, guys and gals?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to be asking $155,000 for this house on my marketing. Looking for a tenant buyer. $155,000. Rent to own deal. Lease until you can buy. That's how I like to say it. On my headlines, lease it until you can buy it. $155,000. Act now. Whatever. Okay.
So Justin, you wouldn't do like a 10 buyer price. You wouldn't do like, okay, I'm gonna sell it for 160, and then negotiate to 155, or is this just straight 155, 150?
I would just say 155 is the program price. That's the words that come out right out of my mouth, man. When I'm talking to a tenant buyer and they want to talk about, well, now wait a minute, we haven't negotiated price or anything here. Now, 155 is the program price. If you want to do it, if you don't, that's fine. You know, I mean, it is what it is. This is a rent to own. How many bargaining chips are you bringing to the table, Mr. Tenant Buyer? No house buying mother. Okay, you follow me? So I'm going to advertise that deal at 155, 150, rent to own, and I'm going to ask tenant buyers how much they have to put down into their new home, and I'm going to be looking for somebody that's got 11 grand. So that's how much. Now, out of the 11 grand, I'm still going to have to give 5 to my seller. So, you know, I'm only going to make $6,150 if I get a tenant buyer that brings me $11,150. Now, what if I don't have a tenant that brings me $11,150? What if I have a tenant buyer that brings me $5,000? What happens then? The first tenant buyer that contacts me on my ad, he says, "Yeah, I got a great deal. I just closed in my business. I'm a landscaper, and I got $5K I could put into this right now." Is that enough?
Yeah, we wouldn't make anything.
You wouldn't make a penny because you got to give $5K to that homeowner. So you got to get from a tenant buyer, you got to get more than $5K. Anything above $5K starts becoming a paycheck for you. But the ceiling on this particular deal really is about $11,150. And then you're going to still give $5,000 to the homeowner. So really you're going to make on this deal, you're going to make between $0 and $6,000. Is it worth it? Nobody wants to say. Nobody wants to admit. Everybody here is so Beverly Hills. It's like, man, 6,000. Nah, I wouldn't even fuck with $6,000. We got all these California people, man. I gotta come up. That's what it is. Because see, 6,000 to me is a hell of a lot of money. Okay, still to this day, that's a lot of fucking money. That's a car. That's a fucking car. A used car, but it's a nice used car.
Have you ever entertained a tenant buyer where they don't have all the money, but they'll have it in like a couple of weeks? They can give you a portion right now, and they can give you another portion in a couple of weeks. But in that couple of weeks, they're actually already moved in. Or do you just do all or nothing?
Well, I'll let somebody put a deposit down to hold a property for them.
Okay.
So if they're going to put down 11,000 and they only have 5,000 of that today, but they're supposed to have the other 6,000 in 2 weeks, then I'll let them put their 5,000 down today and I'll hold it. I won't spend it because I might end up giving it back to them when they don't come up with the rest, but they don't get keys until they've paid the whole amount. Okay.
All right.
Now,
okay, so even though even though that during that 2-week period is when your lease option, their move-in date is, you're still not gonna give them the key.
no,
Let's say
that's not my buyer. That's not my buyer. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying you would only entertain that if there's enough time where they can give you all that before the move-in date. But if that time falls in between the move-in date, you're not gonna entertain that.
Yeah. My experience has taught me that if you just get enough money out of the tenant buyer to meet your responsibility to the seller and you let them move in and owe you the rest, good luck. You just did a pro bono deal for somebody is what happened, because possession is 9/10 of the law, right? I don't even know what the hell that means, but they say it a fuckload on TV. So it's got to be true. Possession is 9/10 of the law. They living in that house. They're keeping the rent paid. I'm not sending you any extra money. I got everything I want already. I'm here. Who the fuck are you? That's the attitude you get from them. So, that's just not my buyer. So I won't play like that. I'll take a deposit if they're serious about having the money before move-in day, but not anything. I don't play games like that. Now, here's another thing I will do though, Sandra, is let's say I'm looking for 11,500 or 11,150. I know I owe the seller 5,000, and I got a guy that comes to me and he's real sincere and I like him, and he's only got 9,000. Shit. That means I'm only going to make $4,000 on this deal, right? Because I gotta give 5 of the 9 to the seller. So, and I'm looking for 11. So 9 is short of that $2,000. So I could take a haircut here, or I could take a chance, and I'll take your 9K. I'll give 5 of it to the seller. I'll keep 4, and then you can make up the 2,000 you owe me in payments.
Yeah.
$100 a month for the next 20 months that you're going to be living there.
Yeah, take back a note, Justin.
Yeah, a promissory note. Now, here's the thing, though. Just between you and me and the fence post, don't tell any of my tenant buyer prospects this, okay? The day they sign that promissory note and I cash that $4,000 check I did get from them, that paycheck I did get from the down payment, and they sign the promissory note to give me the $2,000 in payments, I don't count on it. Any of it that shows up, I'm just tickled pink. And if it doesn't show up, I don't sweat it at all because I wasn't expecting it anyway.
Okay.
That's the only way I've been able to do this business without it wrecking me emotionally like that. You know what I'm saying? Can't get tied up like that emotionally in this stuff.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
I got a call, so I kind of missed some. I just want to ask one thing. You may have went over it on the option fee part, the 11.5 or whatever. We put it out there for 155. We put it out there for 155, 150, right? And then you're looking for the end tenant buyer to bring that 11,150.
Yep.
When you put it out there, because the way I've done it before, I don't put out there that amount. I asked them how much do they have to put down, because sometimes they may have more.
Correct. Correct.
So do you do it like that, or do you just put it out there for 11.5?
Yeah. It depends, but most of the time I will just say reasonable down payment required,
Right.
or reasonable investment required, reasonable upfront investment required, something like that. You don't necessarily want to call it a down payment, but I'll put something like that in there, and I use down payment a lot. Okay, so reasonable down payment required. That's it.
Okay,
And then
so-
that's one of the first questions we ask, how much there is a reasonable down payment required to get into the home in the rent to buy program. So how much are you working with as far as how much can you invest into your new home for having a home? What do you got put back? Nothing? $1,000? $1,000?
500.
I get that a lot too. Yeah, I'm looking for. You got any more than rent to own homes? I'm looking for something that I can get into for about $425 a month. Yeah, I got a cardboard box. I'll set it on a wood pallet so you stay dry. But that's about it. That's about what with $425. You get some crazy tenant buyer episodes. Okay, so you're looking for the one that says, yeah, I got 15,000. I got 15,000 to put down on a deal like this. Oh, great. Wonderful. Have you driven by it?
That was my next question. If we're looking for the 11,150 and they come with 15,000, which we didn't mark it up for that other four.
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation before. How do you handle that?
Well, other investors will somehow mark the property up.
Right.
Okay. They'll figure out a way to say, well, it was only 155, but actually it's 159. Okay. So they'll mark it up. That's one way. I don't personally do that.
Okay.
There other investors will take the 15K and give an additional $4,000 to the homeowner. So instead of 5,000 down, they'll put 9,000 down. Okay. In some cases, they'll say this, and this is what I do. Okay. Oh, Mr. Tenant Buyer, you have 15,000 down. That's wonderful. I've got great news for you. If I'm able to talk to my manager here real quick, my managing partner here on this particular deal, hell, he don't know who that is. No, nor does he even give a shit. Okay. My managing partner is my subconscious brain, and I call him Frank. Okay. So I got to fucking talk to Frank about this. But if I can talk to Frank about this and I can get this down payment requirement knocked down to, let's say 11,000, is that something that you can move on today? Because I think he can do that for me today, but I'm not sure about it going past today. I like you. Can we get a deal together if I can do that? I'm using it as a bargaining chip to push the tempo. Okay. Great. I'll send the paperwork over, and you can wire the 11K over immediately. Okay. Does that make sense where I'm going with that, y'all?
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about the last blue box here, tenant buyer rent. Okay. The tenant buyer rent will be $1,200 a month because we're assigning this. It's a
Right.
wholesale lease option. Fair market rent is only $1,150, but we're in the ballpark here, aren't we? I mean, $1,200 is not very far from $1,150, especially for a rent to own deal. Sorry, I don't know what rent to own. I was like burping and talking both at the same time. I don't know. Sorry. Rent to own for $1,200 is not bad when the fair market rent's $1,150. All right, so we're square there. So let's figure up our option profits here. We just did a few times, but let's do it one more time for solidarity. Collected tenant buyer option fee. Let's assume we found a tenant buyer that had $11,000 down. Okay, so the tenant buyer has $11,000 down. We're going to subtract our required down payment we have to give the homeowner. That's $5,000. We're going to subtract any arrears, which is none. Okay. We're going to subtract any agreed to repairs we agreed to pay for, which we didn't. Okay. And then that's going to equal our profits. So our profits on this deal with this particular tenant buyer is $6,000. Okay. Now you may have to do this particular formula every time you get a tenant buyer that says he has some money to put down. Great. Then run this particular formula on that amount, the collected tenant buyer option fee, how much he has, and figure out what your profits will be. And then make your decision whether or not that's your guy or not, or that's your gal or not. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So it may be something that's helpful if, when you're working a deal, print this out and just fill it out by hand and kind of put the address up here at the top or something where you know what property you're referring to. That way, as tenant buyers come to you and you're talking and whatnot, you can easily refer back to what things are worth and what you agreed to and what you're asking for. Okay. So it's just a nice little reference point sitting on your desk that you can easily figure out, oh, this tenant buyer said he only had $7,500 to put down. Is this the guy I want to do a deal with? I don't know. I could sure use some money today. He has $7,500. Okay. Well, let's put 7,500 in here instead of 11,000 and then subtract 5,000. Okay. So we would make $2,500 if we did the deal with that guy. Okay. So that way, you know what the score is when people are talking these numbers to you.
Justin, I do have another question.
Okay.
Because I've had this come up before. So you have tenant buyers that you've been communicating with, right? And one of them called, they say they got $15,000, but you don't have anything for them at that particular time. But then you come across this particular property, right? And so when you do the rate, the appreciation rate is at 3.5. So my question is, if that person had 15,000 and you wanted to make that 15,000 work, instead of raising it up to 155, could you bump it up another, what, 4,000 or 5,000? Even though that number is higher than the 3.5 for the year. You know what I'm saying? So could you do that? Could you get away with that? You muted. You are muted.
Okay. Let me just give you the man on the streets version. I could give you the textbook bullshit answer, but this is how it really plays out. Yeah. The answer is yes.
That's what I thought.
$4,000 or $5,000. Yeah. Nobody gives a shit. Right? The appraiser, the appraiser don't care. $4,000 or $5,000 here, there, everywhere. No, it's not normally an issue when it becomes an issue is if the guy comes in and he says, "Hey, I got 30,000 to put down." Holy fuck. Okay, this deal ain't big enough for that. I don't have enough spread here. I'm going to need to get a longer term, or I'm going to need to get some kind of price reduction in order to keep all that. That's too much. If he said, "Hey, I got 50,000 I want to put in on this." Okay, I'm not going to be able to keep all that. I'm going to have to give some of that, a lot of that, to the seller, because I just can't justify it. I could do it. I could maybe fool the guy, and he might put 50,000 down on it, and I might keep the money. But then when he goes to buy the house, he's going to have a rude awakening, and he's going to be pissed at me when he finds out I took a whole pot full of money and it did him diddly squat good. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I try to, these are the boundaries. What I showed here on this chart are the boundaries. And if you want to go outside this boundary and raise this price beyond this point of appreciation, you can do so, but keep it modest. That's my only advice. Just keep it modest. You know, so I have some students that come to me and say, "Hey, this one here is 149,000. It's worth 145. It'll be worth 155 in 2 years, but I'm thinking about listing this one for 185. Shit, man. Okay, well, you might win, and then 2 years up the road, get your ass chewed in a real serious way. I'm just saying. You know, if you need the money that bad today, maybe you can afford to buy your way out of that problem in 2 years. I don't know, but I just play it straight. I play it straight. And I recommend that you play it straight. If you get outside the boundaries, just be modest with it. That's all. I hope that helps. This particular training on breaking down these numbers and all that, you guys getting stuff out of this? You don't mind me doing this? You want to do a little more of it maybe next week too?